Okay, so Mom, you hit us with the beat, like boom, 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 boom. In the corner, Julie Richards, Sarah Wakefield, and Samuel Richards, returning for season 3.
We need one of those sound things. You should bring one of those things on it.
Yeah, I think I can edit that in too.
That'd be amazing.
You could be like, yeah.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. I think we can make it work. Or I can just take what we just did and kind of
It's a little more embarrassing if you do.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of vulnerability right at the start of a new season. Like, okay, you're
Julie.
seeing how weird we are.
It demonstrates our humanity.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Look
This
at that.
is as funny as they get. Nah. Okay, welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us at Community Roots, a place where we gather in community to talk about mental health so we can travel the journey of life together. I'm Samuel Richards.
I'm Julie Richards.
I'm Sarah Wakefield.
And I did that with no business card. That's off the dome piece after like 6 months. I haven't even...
Wow.
You haven't been studying for that or
I
anything?
will say on my desk at work, I have a whole pile of them.
Oh,
so
nice.
I kind of unconsciously look at it every day.
That's right. It's like when you're studying by osmosis, or is that the right
exactly.
word?
I put a Community Roots business card underneath my pillow when
That's
I sleep.
right. So it just comes through. It
transmutes.
comes shining through.
But anyway, it does feel so good to be back. We are not only back for season 3, but we're back together in the office too, which is pretty crazy.
Which is fun.
Right.
I love
Glorious.
being together. I have missed you guys. I've missed Community Roots. I've missed it.
Me too. I'm glad we're back. And it's kind of weird because I can't just like turn off my camera and mute my microphone and be like, oh.
Can we retake that, please?
Yeah. Cut, edit. But yes, it's so good to be back. And I'm really excited for season 3. Like I was talking in my little teaser trailer, we have a lot of cool things that are coming. And I want to also remind my co-hosts that we are now sprinkling gratitudes within our episodes as they come up. And so we can still do a closing gratitude, but I would say right now that I am grateful for this moment and grateful that we're all here together.
So we're on the lookout now
Yes.
all the time.
All the time. All the time, be ready for gratitudes.
Is this going to be like a quiz as we'll be talking and discussing, polyvagal theory? And then Samuel's gonna
I'm
interject.
grateful for polyvagal theory.
I love my window of tolerance.
Oh, goodness.
It's going to be a scorecard, and at the end of the season, we win something, whoever has the highest scorecard.
I'm so grateful for that scorecard.
Falling behind.
I'm grateful for you for bringing it up.
Okay, sir, you've had practice, I think.
Oh, gracious.
But so this week I'm very excited. It tends to be in the beginning of seasons that we kind of go back to this concept of what is it like to be a healthy human. And so I'm really excited for this segment, coming back to home base. So we wanted to outline that and kind of take you with us. So I'm going to hand the torch off to Mom.
So we loved the idea of coming back. I mean, because we've taken time to listen to our bodies and our schedules and to just slow down, which is a huge part of what it means to come back to ourselves, which is home base. Home base is who you are, your essence of who you are, as for me, as Julie or as Sarah or as Samuel, or fill in the blank there with your own name. Of home base is getting a sense of being grounded and present and showing up as your best self in the world. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what does that mean, coming back to home base. And then we're going to talk about what we are trying to heal from. One of the phrases that I often think about, reflect on, read, study is healing trauma. And there's all kinds of, I think, misconceptions maybe of trauma, that it has to be something huge or significant in the sense of an event. And really, we can have developmental and relational trauma happening day by day, moment by moment, stuck in our nervous system and stuck in our bodies. And so there's a whole lot going on under the hood, I want to say, like with our car or something. Like there's just a lot going on. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're going to talk about like, why do we even need to heal? What is the point? Why do I need to put in the effort or the work to do that? How important is that? How do we go about doing this? So over the course of our series that we're in on coming back to home base, we're going to be talking about all kinds of awesome things that we've covered before, related to PMLity and polyvagal theory and our parts work with wounded child, functional adult, adapted adolescent, boundary work. I'm super excited to redo our boundary episode. I think that's one that I refer people to really frequently, so it'll be nice to have a refresher of that.
I really like how, also season 3, being able to touch and expand on things as before. One thing I liked about this theme whenever we came into what were we going to do for season 3, episode 1, is with season 1, we do have that kind of emergency handbook that we got together, that 3-parter episode that you should totally go back and listen to. Although it's been a while, I cannot speak on the audio quality or the editing ability, but I do know like that was an emergency handbook right there. And now we're kind of digging into some longer term work, some more, accepting trauma, accepting like, a complicated past, and trying to work towards more of a healthy future, that it isn't as urgent, but it's more long-term. So I'm excited that we're continuing these themes too, in season 3.
It's pretty great. We have content to build on,
yes,
and continue to pour into, because
I'm grateful for that.
I think we're going to lose Samuel's audio here soon. No, but to go back and to build on concepts, discussions, and we've all grown in the time since the time that this first started, and have further insights. And Julie, with all the work that you've been doing, you bring more to the table than what you did 6 months ago, or when we first took our break. So I am very grateful for those experiences.
I think that's how our brain works too. Like I go back to before I was a therapist, I was a teacher, and they talk about when you're teaching a new concept to somebody, you start by what do they already know? And like, what's the foundation? And your brain will link and add to the things that already has heard about it. And it kind of categorizes things. So it's quite efficient on the part of our brain. So in a way, season 1 and season 2 were a foundation that we're building on. Because now as we circle back around to talk about some of these topics, and we have new ideas for different segments and things to bring some fresh perspectives and fun to our podcast. So I'm excited to see where that goes with all of this. And I'm happy about it.
You're grateful for it.
In fact, I am grateful.
That's a ticker to count for 1 for Mom. No, so I think that's great. So I say let's dive in. So kind of digging into that, what does it mean to come back home base? What does it mean to be, a healthy human?
Yeah, for sure. I think the essence of home base, if that is who I am in my sense of self, that might not be known to everyone for their own sense of who am I. One of the things that sticks out to me when I work with my youngest client ever was 3, and my oldest client was, I think, 74. And it's not uncommon to hear people 50s, 60s, 70s saying, I don't know who I am. And I find that interesting because we're always learning more about ourselves and have the opportunity to evolve and grow and change. So even who I am today, like sometimes I think in terms of parts work, like who I was as 14-year-old Julie is very different than who I am as 50-year-old Julie. And I'm thankful for that. But I didn't even intend to do that either. That's a gratitude.
That's a ticker too.
Yeah. Like I am so thankful that I didn't stay stuck and didn't have opportunity to go deeper and and evolve and change.
So is this happening? Are your older clients saying this because they've stagnated or because they're not associating, who they are with what they realize? Like, I'm somebody who likes olives and likes going for walks, like that being a part of it? Or is it just kind of, I'm so into my routine, I've forgotten who I am?
I wonder if part of it could be that I've heard that we live like 95% of our day unconscious. So we've been getting up, going to work, doing the same thing, having our same routines, but we don't really necessarily connect with ourselves and reflect on, what are my thoughts? What are my feelings? I remember being in counseling as the client when my therapist said to me, like, well, what do you think? What do you feel about that? And I was thinking, nobody's ever asked me that. Nobody ever was that curious about me. And I had to learn how to be more curious about, well, I wonder what I do think about that. Because you hear so many other thoughts and opinions surrounding you from so many people and so many sources or whatever, that doesn't mean that you've ever been in touch with yourself.
It strikes me that codependency can play a huge part in that, not knowing yourself when you've spent years or so much I don't know where I'm going with this, but the codependent thought stuck in my head, stuck in my brain as something that really separates you from what your home base is. And I just know so many codependent people or stories. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, codependency is like the idea of, from Pia Melody's lens, of emotional immaturity and being stunted. And we take all our energy out. So instead of having it being mutual, where it comes back, where there's more of this like serve and return, give and take, like mutuality, codependency tends to have so much energy on, what does everybody else think of me and what do they need? And can I maintain connection with people? What do I need to do to stay secure? Because if I lose people, I've lost myself. Like, it's so blurred in those boundaries. It's so enmeshed and dependent on that we don't know who we are. We're more trying to find that in other people, trying to find our worth or our value or who we are based on what other people think and say.
So coming to home base is just like an affirmation and a confirmation of who you are instead of finding that in other people.
Yeah, I think so. And for some people, that part of us is somewhat, we might say, a lost self, because maybe we got too much into the rhythm of the unconscious of just, we're on autopilot. Like, you sometimes can't even remember how you got from one location to another because you're just driving down the road and partially in your own zone or whatever, that you're not really thinking about it. And a lot of our day can be like that, where we might be having thoughts or doing actions, but we're not like embodied and aware of, oh, I've got tension in my neck or in my back, or I'm really thirsty and I haven't had anything to drink, or what time was it that I ate? Or have I moved my body at all? Or am I just sitting in a chair for hours on end and I'm needing some movement and some stretching?
I can just feel everybody who's listening to this like unconsciously like straining like I haven't drank anything.
I need to get my water bottle that's across the room.
So it sounds like coming back to home base is not just a sprint like we think of when we think of baseball, when you're dashing from first to third, or starting and circling the bases and whatnot, but it's a series of small events, such as like checking in with your body, checking in with your thirst, with your energy levels, your back, your neck, whatever. And also addressing complex trauma and identifying that trauma and and I think we're going to talk about this in a second, but identifying why we need to heal. Because a lot of times, I wouldn't have thought I needed to heal until I revealed some trauma to my first therapist, and, and it didn't break her, but it was the catalyst for all of this, the way that I've functioned, the way I thought about myself. So I think that's what I'm taking from here is it's little bits, it's big bits, it's unconscious bits that you don't recognize. There's a lot. This is a deep topic.
Yeah, and what I like about that is that we all have these parts, and like some of them we have our authentic self, we have a wounded self, we have a confused self, like all those different parts of us, that what we want to do as part of our healing and growth as a human is to welcome all of that in and to allow it to be there. Maybe it's there to teach us something. Maybe it's something that we need to listen to. Maybe it's revealing to us places that are stuck or unresolved or needing some time and attention.
So you're saying to welcome it all in, and that is the complicated, that is the wounded, that is all of your feelings?
Yeah, your different emotions, your different parts of you that are maybe ages, like maybe my 2-year-old self, my 7-year-old self, my 14-year-old self, maybe those had some memories along the way that kind of I got stuck or stunted in, that I want to get to know and to welcome. Like I always picture it with my arms, and I talk with my hands a lot. And so that's really hard to do as a podcast. So you guys can help me put into words what you're seeing me doing maybe. But like I kind of scoop up my wounded child and scoop up my adapted adolescent. And I think of all those different parts of me. I was just reading today a comment on Facebook that someone was making that they hate these parts of themselves that are critical or judgmental or things like that. And my first reflection on that was like those parts of us are protectors. We're feeling fearful about something.
Amygdala.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. That's that limbic part of our brain that is in survival mode that's like something doesn't feel safe to me. And so instead of wanting to push away those parts, which is what our instinct is to do, they'll actually get stronger and louder the more we push away or avoid. And what brings us healing and growth is actually to turn our hand the opposite direction, which is towards us, to bring that in and to welcome it and to listen to it. And honestly, to have compassion for it, to say that part was trying to help me. That part was doing the best it could, and it might not be the most functional or the most healthy, and I want to keep working on that so it can be more functional and more healthy. But the fact that it was doing that was not against me. It was not something that is like, cut that part out of me. We can actually pay attention to it so that we can become have more insight, more awareness, more compassion for somebody else, more desire to keep doing our own work. Like if I see something in me that stands out as being critical or judgmental, I want to hope that gets my attention so I can go, whoa, something's off balance for me right now because I don't want to be that way. And so instead of pushing it away, I can do the opposite and let me get curious about it and let me have compassion for it. And so coming back to home base looks like some reflection, some reflexive parts of us that can notice what we're seeing happening, observe it without judgment, and just have compassion for it.
Yeah, something that we've definitely said on the podcast, and it might have been you or Dad, but
Don't you dare say thank you.
that I'm so thankful for, by the way. No, that is about the question like, I wonder what I think about that. Like just having that wondering about how you feel about something or how you'll react to something. And that kind of, how I view it sometimes is, and this is probably because of one of the Headspace apps or something, like a stream of water with boats floating by and just watching the boats and being like, that's an interesting thought. Like your thoughts being the boats and just kind of going, okay, here's the information I have, and I'm just going to kind of like let it sail by and kind of observe it and not be overwhelmed by it, but still getting some... But I like what you said, and to kind of sum it up in your own words too, or like being curious about yourself and your emotions and your reactions to things and having some compassion while viewing those things.
I think in a previous episode, we did mention about the amygdala and what it does to protect us. And to tie into what you were saying, Julie, saying thank you, like when you're hyper aroused about something and you get that hot feeling in your body, and at least I do, and I get tense and then I, want to panic. One thing you taught us in a previous episode was to say, well, thank you, amygdala, for trying to protect me. This is not the same situation as when I was first, like when that trauma was first experienced. but you're trying to take care of me. I'm going to be curious about this. Like, I wonder, like what Samuel was saying. I wonder why. I wonder what's triggering that response in my body.
I wonder what's coming up for me right now. What does this remind me of? What might still need my time and attention for me to circle back around to that? Because when we're doing that, pushing things away and they're getting stronger and they're getting louder, it's so that we can observe them and work with them and welcome them in so that they can be more integrated. So moving into the part about what are we healing from? When I talk about healing trauma, people might say, I'm not sure that applies to me. I don't know what that even means. One of the things that I think happens very frequently are relational injuries. And these are things like misattunements whenever we don't feel heard or understood. It's times that we've had to stuff or avoid our emotions. It's injuries or patterns that keep on happening. Sometimes people will say like they're having the same argument over and over and over again, or it's a similar pattern to what they've seen before, even if the topic is changing, something like that. And the things that do not have repair is traumatic to us. So if no one acknowledges it, no one is there to hear it or hold it, or sometimes apologize for something if that's applicable or not. It's not even always an apology, though. Sometimes it's just, I'm acknowledging that, something feels off for us, so let's work on it. Anytime that we repair, we're showing somebody that they matter and that they're worth the effort and that we're glad that they exist in our world. So all of those are some relational injuries we might be needing to heal from.
And something that we've talked about before is, as a parent, you're going to mess up at some point. It's like guaranteed. And so you were saying like it's all repair. Being good at repairing relationships is almost, just as valuable or more valuable afterwards, because you're showing there is something that isn't lining up. You're willing to go the extra mile to kind of fix it.
Exactly. Like 30% of the time we need to have for a secure attachment, for someone to feel seen and heard and understood. And the other 70% of it is repair. And that is so helpful for us to see in another person that they're human and that it's okay to make mistakes and that we can learn from mistakes and that they're willing to put in the work, like you said.
I definitely love how it just kind of going over the points in this way, this affirms like the need for coming back to home base. Something I've heard people say is, your life is your life and you're kind of your most invested person, like who's more conscious of what's going on. And so being able to look back at yourself and say, I guess something does need to be repaired here. Or I guess like I am not being heard in this area. I don't know. I just see that as a good connection and a good, why we need to do this.
Would another one indicator would be just your response to things? So if I get angry, does that so in a practical layperson experience, my everyday something happens and I feel like my blood boil. Is that a good indication that I need to repair, or do I accept it as just a normal feeling? Or
I would say it's something to get curious about and to have compassion towards, and to say, is there something I need to be noticing, and somewhere that I've gotten off balance, something that actually leads right into our next thing, which is a boundary violation. If someone has kind of overstepped or offended or hurt us or not held our boundary that we've attempted to establish, then that would create an angry response of like, I feel violated by that. We could have some of these boundary violations that we have are, if someone has no boundaries, then it's going to look like abuse, that it's just someone's coming in too much and I can't even find me because you're so overpowering. And then on the other extreme of that is neglect, which is where someone has put up all walls to us and it's too little, not getting enough of our needs met, and you feel like you don't exist or that you're not worth investing in. So those are another set of things that we can reflect on that we might need to heal from.
Yeah, and it totally does bring me back to our boundaries episode. We have that picture that Mom made for no boundaries, which like looks like craziness. It makes you feel uncomfortable. And I'm excited to revisit that. I think that's going to be exciting too, because I do see it as a key, part of this, part of being a healthy human.
Yeah, sometimes it's just that we have stressors that have piled up, things that take us out of our window of tolerance and have been overwhelming, too much, too hard, too long. All of those kinds of things are something that we heal from. If we have a lost sense of self where we didn't give ourselves time and attention, or others weren't there to mirror back to us or to be attuned with us or to participate in that serve and return that we were talking about a few moments ago, that mutuality, that becomes something that we can heal from. And then there's another one that we call spiritual bypassing, which is having avoidance or repression, any kind of like toxic positivity, platitudes, like oversimplifying things. For people who have faith or a belief in God or a higher power, all of those can be an important part of who we are. But if we use that kind of as a Band-Aid to avoid what else is going on for us, or we only have to, or we can only focus on like the silver lining or making sure we say something good, and we can't really explore all the layers of things, then that's kind of an indication to us that we might be stuffing, we might be avoiding, we might be kind of pushing things away that, like I said earlier, will come back stronger.
Well, I wanted to comment on the spiritual bypassing. And for those who don't have a faith background, I think you can still do some sort of bypassing when you say things. Like some of the things that I'm thinking of that you might be talking about are like look on the bright side, or I don't know, you just have to believe, have faith in yourself, believe that you can. Like, are those toxic positivities? Because I think that's something that, not that I've want to use, but I don't know. Samuel, what do you think on this topic?
I think those sound like platitudes. Is that what a platitude is? Just like let Jesus take the wheel.
Yeah, let go and let God.
Yeah. That's one that comes to mind.
That comes to mind for me. I think it's that the idea that I really feel uncomfortable with your emotion, so I'm just going to tell you something to maybe help you feel better, but I'm backing up from you at that point. Like I'm not comfortable with your grief or your pain or your stress. And so I'm going to just kind of brush it aside with something that I can just, chin up. It's going to be okay. You're fine. Rub some dirt in it.
I also feel like in our society, it's just a natural reaction. I don't know. It's kind of like saying, how you doing? It's like, good. How are you? It's almost just like something that you reflexively say. Because I find myself saying, I've had friends recently who have been going through some stuff, and my first reaction was to kind of say something positive, and then I was like, I want to just sit with this person, and be with them, because then my next thing was like, go negative. I was like, wait, now, trying to find, what comes to mind for me is that Inside Out movie where, sadness just wants to have presence, just wants people to come and be there with you. And so that's what comes to mind with me is because sometimes I feel like I could fall under the toxic positivity. And like I felt my body cringe a little bit whenever it was mentioned. But just like that's what I try to remind myself, being present as kind of a reaction to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great highlight for coming back to home base. When you cringed and you're like, how could I say that? That kind of, to me, says like, oh, wait, I'm not myself. Like, I wouldn't want to hear this. Why would I share that with someone else? Which, I don't know. To me, that strikes home.
And I also think, too, it kind of highlights, too, that it's a process. Like, even though I've been doing this podcast, I've been in counseling for years, and I know that answer, like, still having to go catch myself,
I think we really should do an episode on how to respond in these awkward situations.
Yeah.
But just with some practical application of, okay, I really want to say, it'll be okay. Like, tomorrow's another day. Jesus won't give you more than you can handle. And kind of like pat your back. But what I really need to respond with is something that's not exactly that I carry with me comfortably. So sitting with someone in some quiet space, like my whole body's just like, I just need to tell you something so that you can be comforted. And I would love to do an episode where we talk about, hey, here are some alternatives that'll bring you to present and bring you to the moment and will help you sit in home base and bring you back to yourself.
It is hard to know how to respond because people will be potentially hurt or offended if our response isn't what they need, and that's hard.
And too, that it's coming from a place of understanding that somebody's harmed or like hurt.
Definitely.
And it's just like you're kind of, here's your Band-Aid, smack. And then it's like, well, my arm's missing.
Because it makes a big difference. Exactly. Like it makes a big difference if we can acknowledge or we can validate and say that is really hard. Like, I am really sorry you're going through that. Or is there anything I can do to be with you in that?
To go back to a previous point that we've made is welcoming all the parts.
Yes.
Welcoming the extreme sadness as well as, the stuff you like to brag about. But being able to just be with somebody, welcoming all the parts. Healthy human.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that ties into what are we healing from? Our repeated histories of maybe getting that sort of treatment.
Response,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. And then, Julie, this kind of leads next into, why do we need to heal? And would you take us there?
Yeah, I think it is important that, we often hear that phrase, hurt people hurt people. We
almost like we've said it a bunch of times.
You may have heard it. You may have heard
just
that
once
before.
or twice. Don't know why.
But it's true that we will bleed out on other people things that wasn't anything to do with that person because we're carrying that history with us and we're reacting out of that pain and the unresolved places. And the other thing is that we stay stunted. Like we end up living out, in Pia Melody's terms, we've talked about the wounded child, the adapted adolescent. I imagine that our world and our nation have a whole lot of wounded children and adapted adolescents that are walking around. Hopefully, some of the time we're in our functional adult and we're learning how to live into that more. But any of us, every one of us at different points during the day kind of slide into those stunted parts where we react more instead of respond, or we're more unconscious and those implicit dynamics are all coming out instead of being able to be present and to be a functional adult and to be our best self as a healthy human.
And just another good reason for why we do this podcast, like kind of understanding that if we have good mental health practices, it's easier to build off of that and build a healthy human after that. And it can't solve all your problems for sure. You can't eat mental health. But it just kind of reminds me why we do this. Like whenever people are walking around who are wounded children and adapted adolescent, and even us in this room, like just points to why what we do here with Community Roots is necessary and a good thing.
Mm-hmm. And goes back to really what you and I talked about, Samuel, whenever we said, why are we, you wanted to have the podcast around the idea of how do we change the world?
Yeah,
we change the world by becoming a healthy human and showing up with our best selves. And that brings that out in others as well. Like our nervous systems are speaking to each other all the time. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm able to be a functional adult and present and caring and kind, and that helps the other person feel more safe and that they can show up and be present.
So yeah, Sarah, whenever you ask why do we do this thing, let's just add a little changing the world as a bullet point.
I'm sorry. Why? When have I said that
That was just your question. Yeah.
Why do we do this?
Why do we need to heal?
Yeah. Why do we need to heal?
I thought you were challenging my interest in this whole podcast.
You're like, I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for everything.
I am very grateful for this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for learning why I need to heal.
No, yeah, exactly. Why we need to heal.
Change the world.
Yeah, changing the
Is
world.
to
Bullet
change
point
the world.
1.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good start.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is great.
Yeah. So what are some others?
And then if we have like patterns of reactivity where we're feeling in danger, we're feeling fear, we're breaking attachment with others and connection with others that we need. And that can take all kinds of interesting different forms, like being compliant. So we're going to follow along on the outside, but inside we're feeling very frustrated.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. I think today.
having some rebellion that we're doing the opposite of what we've been asked, having power struggles of like blaming someone else, trying to find fault with them, distancing from others emotionally, that we just disengage, we just wall off. And then addictions too, that anytime we're not able to feel our feelings, or we need to kind of self-medicate, whether it's drugs or alcohol, or it's shopping or pornography or gambling, or
I was going to say one
eating
of the things
disorders, all those.
One of the thing I was going to say is, for a while, whenever I had a hard day, I would just like eat some chocolate. And then I was realizing I was starting to eat the chocolate at like 8 a.m. So I was eating chocolate all day. And so, yeah, I dig this healthy human vibe wherever we're also kind of looking at our practices and our reactions to things like, man, that was my freshman 15 right there, was milkshakes, just as like a reaction. So it's just interesting.
Just notice
how
it.
plays out. Yeah.
I did that today. I got so stressed at work by noon, and I always save my sweets for the end of the day. At noon, I had already finished off a bag of tortilla chips that I was going to wait till the evening to eat. And I powered through like a huge share bag of gummy bears. And I felt myself doing it. And I felt my body saying, you don't want this.
Right.
And I was like, I need it. Get in my mouth. And I was just like double fisting tortilla chips and gummy bears. And I'm like, I am so stressed. And it was a neat experience, because then I went, okay, I understand why I'm doing this. Like, I am so stressed, and this is making me feel good. Like, this makes my taste buds happy. And all right, I didn't need to do that. It's okay that I did that. I mean, it's not okay if I were to continue to do that, but yes, like, instead of beating myself up then for, consuming all of this junk, I then went, okay, you are so stressed. Like, this is you. Like, you need a break. You need to step outside.
And that's totally a good time to thank your amygdala too, to be like, warning, something's not going right,
I thank my amygdala all day long.
Yeah, that's exciting. Well, sweet. It was so fun as we got back to season 3, episode 1. I am excited, starting off the season right, being a healthy human. I know that we're going to dive into all these topics. Even as we were talking, I was like holding my tongue from going into some side weird.
Lots of layers to all of it.
And I'm also so excited. I notice my own mental health improve whenever I do these. So I'm excited as that kind of gets into my routine. And I'm also excited to engage with our listener base again. I know that we've been getting some love even while we're off the air. So I know that's encouraging to those in the room. I know we're so happy whenever you guys just listen to what we're doing. And if you're interested in following us on social media, I know we're going to do another social media push here soon. So please engage with us. That definitely makes all this worthwhile whenever we get a nice comment or we look at our
It's about the relationships, really. And knowing that there's people out there that we're encouraging or supporting or helping, or I think you can get this sense of like, we're real people, and we're just kind of having that coffee house atmosphere of just being in relationship with you. Even if we don't have one-on-one conversations with you, you can join ours, and we're welcoming you into this community to be a part of it with us.
For sure. And I met one of our listeners a year or so ago. I've told you about this. Oh, okay. But it was so crazy to, meet a listener in the wild and to talk to them about some of our boundary episodes or something we had been talking about. And it definitely energized me for the next couple months. So, and I know that hopefully, knock on wood, that listener is still listening.
Yeah.
In which, if you are, you should grab me whenever I'm at your work. But so definitely please reach out. We have multiple ways you can reach out. You can find us on Facebook. Community Roots Pod is normally what we go by. You can email us, communityroots.pod@gmail.com. That always buzzes our phones. That goes straight to our pocket. So we'd love to have you reach out. Another thing we're talking about is getting T-shirts. So if you're interested in getting T-shirts, this is not something we're trying to make a profit off of We're not trying to kind of sell en masse. Just if you're interested in getting a Community Roots t-shirt, shoot us an email with your size and we'll totally expand the order. I know some people have already been in touch with us about that. So maybe we'll give it till the end of the month.
Sure, a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
But if you're interested and you're listening to this like 2 years later, email us.
Yeah, still
anyway.
reach out
Yeah.
because we still care. So.
Watch. Yeah. We both care and we probably have some spare somewhere.
Excuse me. Both? You went both on me.
All three of us care.
Thank you.
Our community cares.
Yeah, community cares. There we go.
Absolutely.
That's right. I think that's what you're trying to say too with the t-shirts. It's about building community.
Right.
Like we're not here to make a profit, but we're here to be like, hey, I'm part of this community
Right.
Yeah.
that cares.
Yeah,
And whenever I see
absolutely.
you at Kroger, I'll totally, wave to you and give you a high five. You probably won't recognize me until I start talking.
Yeah, exactly. They'll know your voice.
But anyway, so thanks so much for joining us. Do we want to do one round of gratitudes just for old time's sake?
Absolutely. Oh, Julie, we don't have to.
No, I definitely do. I'm super
Mom's
thankful
just
that
looking
we
around
are.
the
I
room
know.
what
She's
can I
like, oh,
point at?
please. anything.
No, I'm just super thankful that we are like bringing it into gear. We've been talking about it and looking forward to it. So I am really excited about this series that we're going to be talking about. I really want others to feel encouraged and fed by this, and that this could be a resource for you that maybe you don't have counseling, or maybe you don't have as many people that you're networked with. And so this is an opportunity for hopefully people to listen in and feel a part of things.
I am very grateful for community. And I know that I just said that, but not just in the sense of community roots, but in the sense of your network, your support group. I'm so grateful for my support group. That includes both of you here, but also my own therapist, my family, my friends, those who are willing to sit with me when times are difficult, those who are willing, who will step out for their friends and their family to try to create safe spaces and heal the world. Or I guess you can't heal the world, but just make those steps, changing the world one person at a time, one moment at a time.
Yeah, and this is going to be really cheesy, but I want to shout out our listener for this time off, because I've actually been, our Podbean is one of my home pages, so I see our downloads almost every day, and I see, people still communicating and connecting with us throughout our other episodes. And I know it definitely fueled my want to come back for season 3, just seeing, how much support was still there. So I just want to thank you guys for listening, for being a part of this, for sure. It's been an awesome journey, and I'm looking forward to continuing it. So yeah, we did it.
Huzzah!
Season 3 has started.
Yay!
We did it. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everyone. We are going to, like I said in my intro, post an episode every 2 weeks or so. 2 weeks. So this episode is actually going to go up on September 28th. And then we'll see you again. Sorry, September 21st. And we'll see you again on October 5th. So look forward to seeing you then. And I will, we'll chat you guys up soon.